Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we are diving into a report from Corsair Gaming, and let me tell you, it looks like they've been hitting the RGB lights extra hard lately. But are those lights just distracting from what's really going on inside? Let's find out. This report gives us a snapshot of how well Corsair is doing financially. We're talking about revenue, which is the money they're bringing in, and profit, which is what's left after they pay all their bills. Are they making more money than they spend? Are things getting better or worse? Let's dig in and see what's really happening under the hood of this gaming giant. Before we start, if you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, make sure you're subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below where you can discuss these topics with other people. This document is called an 8K, and it's basically a quick update that companies send to the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, to keep investors in the loop about important things. This particular one is dated May 6, 2025, so it's fairly recent. Alright, let's get into the meat of the report. Under item 202, we see that Corsair issued a press release about their financial results for the first quarter of 2025. This is where we'll find the key numbers about how the company performed. We'll check the press release to see how it looks. Here's the press release titled Corsair Gaming Reports Strong First Quarter 2025. Growth in revenue, EBITDA and gross margin. That sounds pretty good. Companies love to highlight the positive stuff in their press releases, so let's see if the numbers back up the hype. First, net revenue. This is the total amount of money Corsair brought in from sales. For the first quarter of 2025, it was $54 million. Keep that number in mind as we compare it to last year. Next, gross profit. This is the money Corsair has left after subtracting the direct costs of making their products, like the cost of parts and manufacturing. In this quarter, it's $104.3 million. This is important because it tells us how efficiently Corsair is making its products. Now, let's jump down to operating income. Operating income is your profit from business operations, and it's calculated as gross profit less operating expenses. Corsair's operating income was $15.7 million in the first quarter. Finally, net income. This is the bottom line, the real profit after all expenses, including taxes, are paid. Corsair's net income was $5.9 million. That's the money they get to keep after everything else. Now let's put this in perspective. Let's look back at the first quarter of the previous year. Corsair's net revenue back then was $244 million. Comparing that to the $34 million they made this year, we see a pretty significant jump. It's a jump of about 25%, which means they're selling a lot more stuff. In the first quarter of the previous year, their gross profit was $60 million compared to the $10 all afford and $3 million this year. That's a massive improvement. It means they're not only selling more, but they're also making their products more efficiently. Their operating income was only $0 free $3 million. Now they are making $15.7 million. You can tell they are running their business more effectively. The net income was actually negative $7.9 million. The fact that they have a net income of $5.9 million after having negative income in the prior year shows huge changes. Before we move on, it's worth mentioning that companies sometimes use non-GAAP measures, which are ways of calculating financial performance that aren't standardized. Corsair mentions adjusted EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization with some adjustments. It can be useful, but it's always good to focus on the standard numbers first. Now let's check out the investor presentation. This is usually a more visual and marketing friendly way for companies to present their results. Often they use these presentations to highlight key points and provide context to investors. One thing to look for in these presentations is any discussion of challenges or risks. Corsair mentions a supply chain update. Supply chain issues have been a big deal for many companies, so any info on that is important. Another thing they mention is component costs. They talk about component costs normalizing. It seems that costs have decreased, which leads to higher profit margins. Alright, that's the core of the report. Now let's take a step back and look at what this all means for Corsair. Corsair appears to be in a stronger position than they were a year ago. Revenue is up and their profits have dramatically increased. They're managing their costs better and selling more products. The gaming market is competitive, but these numbers suggest that Corsair is holding its own. However, it's essential to remember that one quarter doesn't tell the whole story. We need to look at several quarters or even years to understand long-term trends. Are these improvements sustainable, or are they just a temporary boost? That's something investors will be watching closely. Overall, this report paints a positive picture for Corsair. They've shown solid growth and improved profitability. If they can keep this up, the future looks bright. Alright, that's our breakdown of Corsair's latest report. What's your take on these numbers? What do they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of corporate finance. Don't forget to check out the Discord channel in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.